Hello, I'm Emily.
And I'm Leslie.
And this is the
First Floor
Podcast. And today we will be discussing the open science movement and the replication crisis in psychology. So, this is my best friend, and she is also a psychology student, same as me. Now, let me go ahead and just start. We're just going to get right into it. So, my first question to you, Les, is do you know what the open science movement is?
I've kind of heard about it a little bit before, but I'm not exactly too sure what it is.
That's okay. I'm going to tell you what it is. Okay, so the simplified version of the open science movement refers to making scientific research more transparent, accessible, and reproducible, meaning it encourages practices like the sharing of data, research materials, and methodologies to ensure validity and inclusivity of scientific knowledge. And factors that contribute to the open science movement would be open data / open access, and that basically means having researchers publish their raw data and findings, not altered, publicly and not behind a paywall. Because how many times are you like doing a research assignment or whatever type of assignment and you're looking up articles and it says, oh, to access you must do whatever and it's frustrating, right? As a student, as a person just wanting to know, and it makes you kind of question like, why you do that?
Why are you hiding?
What are you
research?
Hiding? Exactly. What is there? So yeah, it just basically means open data is just making knowledge more accessible to students, researchers, and just general public. Now, according to Laura Mullen, in Open Access Scholarly Communication and Open Science and Psychology, she said, one thing is certain, open access is here to stay, but many ask who will pay. So, researchers get paid and funding, from having that paywall. You want to access what I'm doing, you have to pay me. So the question is, who will pay that? Who will pay them? And this refers to, how people will get paid and receive funding and, for their detailed procedures, tools, and materials. So Mullen, she also adds, funders are increasingly mandating that authors and universities provide open access to the results that taxpayers fund, even as there are fewer research dollars available than in the past. So they're basically saying, have open access to what the taxpayers are paying, since they're paying and they want to know. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's very interesting and it's very true, because there have been times where I'm trying to look at a study or do some research and you can't see it because you don't have access to it.
But do you think there should only be open access to the research that is funded by taxpayers, or should it be for all research? Private funding is what I mean when I say that. I don't know, a university's funding it. So whatever research, they're keeping it to themselves.
So only people from the university have access to it?
Basically, if you pay to get it. What do you think?
I guess, I feel open access would be better. I think it would make things easier for a lot of people.
Same. This leads me to my point of peer review. Do you know what that is, being a psychology student?
Peer review, yes.
What do you think it is? Or what's your idea?
Just whenever you have somebody other than you to look over your research and whatever you wrote, to make sure that it makes sense. Stuff like that.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yes, you're right. But it also means as a whole, to the whole scientific area and study and research in psychology, it is a process in which researchers' work is evaluated by other experts in the field before it is published in a scientific journal. Now, That's meant to ensure quality, validity, sorry, and reliability of the research. Doing so, everyone has access to methodology, results, and they can interpret findings and overall just do quality control. Meaning, is this study worthy of being published? Do people want to know about it? Is it sexy? That's the main question here.
Does it look good?
Does it look good? Do we care about it? Do people want to know? That's what it is. So the problem here with peer review is that nobody wants to do it. And why don't they want to do it? What do you think?
I don't know. Because they're scared that, I don't know, somebody's gonna call them out for like their mistakes or whatever.
That's a possibility. That's one of the possibilities, yes. But another one is peer reviewer don't get money. They do not get paid for it, which is an issue because those that do peer review tend to be like grad students, the lowest of the low in the research, I guess, pyramid, if you would say. So they're not getting paid for it. They're not efficiently doing the work because they're like, okay, whatever, they glaze over it. Not it, right? And a lot of the times with the peer reviews or the papers that people are peer reviewing, even the researchers or whoever is reading it doesn't have all the methods in front of them. Like they don't have all the details still. And it's like, okay, so how am I peer reviewing to check quality if I can't see everything? That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. They should show everything.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think peer reviewing is like important and it'll help us have more efficient research that's more like real and valid and reliable.
Exactly. And I feel the same. So that leads me to my next point. It says, in psychologists push for open data, Naik Gautam, I think that's how you say it, states, without such transparency, a study is like buying a used car without being able to check under the hood. And I feel like that just sums it up. It's very in your face, it's very there, and that's what it means. You know, how can I work with you if I don't know you? How can I evaluate if you're not giving me all the answers that I need or that the public needs? Because I feel like that's the issue. You know, the public. That's, to me, that is what researchers are there for. You know, we're studying for the public because it'll overall benefit everyone as a whole. And you can't hide stuff like that. So that also leads me to the topic of replication crisis, which I will discuss later on. But for now, I'm going to talk about pre-registration. So many researchers are pushing for pre-registration of studies. What do you think that means, pre-registration? In terms of psychology, research, studies, articles, journals.
Pre-registration, when you like register your data beforehand or something like that.
Yeah, basically.
And like you can't change it after you register it.
Well, so it's not necessarily your data yet. It's the step before you find data.
Your hypotheses.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So here I wrote down, pre-registration is submitting your work to a website platform such as OSF, aka the Open Science Framework, to register the design, hypothesis, methodology, and analysis of the topic before any data is actually collected. So this is meant to avoid people or prevent other researchers from taking your idea, claiming it as their own, you know, because that's very common in the scientific community. And it also ensures that researchers are held accountable for their work, and they are not participating in questionable research practices such as p-hacking. Do you have an idea about questionable research practices? Have you heard of that in your courses yet?
Not really.
Not really. So yeah, this is the first semester that I've heard about it also. And I'm not gonna lie, it really shocked me. So I'm interested to see if you'll be as shocked as I am as I let you know more about what I learned. Okay, so have you heard of p-hacking?
P-hacking? Maybe. I wouldn't be able to like define it though.
Understandable.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have been able to either until my course, of course. So p-hacking in the simplest terms means manipulating data until it produces a significant result in favor of your original hypothesis, which compromises the truthfulness of the findings and questions the researcher's credibility. So basically, don't do that, because you're
controlling the data, basically.
You're manipulating the data to ensure that it supports your hypothesis.
So it works in your favor.
So you can get published, so you can get credibility, so you can be famous for whatever you found, but it wasn't the real data. How is that possible, you know?
Yeah.
And what's surprising is it happens often.
Yeah.
So often. So in the article, the impact of p-hacking on redefining statistical p-hacking and other forms of statistical misuse are endemic. Sorry, I read that wrong. In the impact of p-hacking on redefined statistical significance, Harry Crane claims p-hacking and other forms of statistical misuse are endemic to science at all levels. First of all, I didn't know what endemic meant. I didn't know what that meant. I was like, okay, what's that word? I'm the type of person, I don't know what it means. I Google it. So I had to Google it. So after Googling what that means, it basically means regularly occurring when in an area or community. So often, you know, it happens often. And that surprised me. So I just have to ask you, how do you feel about researchers constantly manipulating their data in psychology, mainly?
It's kind of crazy.
It is.
Because when you do that, you're not really like... you're not really proving your hypothesis in a like natural, organic way. So it's like kind of like pointless, I feel like.
It's not real.
Yeah.
It's not the fact, right? To me, I always see science, I have always seen science as the fact. This is the fact. All these researchers, experimenters, whatever it is, are testing every day to make sure that we're getting the fact, to make sure we're getting our answer. That if we Google it, we can look it up and we'll know it, right? And that we can ensure, the public as a whole can ensure that we trust them, we trust their work, whatever it is. And here I come to find out they're manipulating the data.
Yeah, it's all fake.
At times, if they don't get caught, right? So now that leads me to what I found the most interesting in the whole course that I've taken, whatever it is the replication crisis within psychology. Have you heard of the replication crisis in psychology?
I think I have heard about it.
What have you heard?
How basically a lot of studies are not getting replicated, and when you can't replicate a study, that basically affects its reliability or validity. Yeah,
basically. But what I wrote down in my simple way also is it's simply a great concern to the reliability, as you mentioned, reproducibility of the research findings in the field. And this it's been happening, like the crisis has been around for a while now, since you and I were kids, literally. It began around 2011 when students failed, like grad students, I believe it was grad students, failed to replicate high profile research. And it raised a brow, right, to the accuracy and trustworthiness of the psychological research. And honestly, I won't lie, I'm an honest person, 100%. I was in class listening to this, and I was like, what? I'm like, it made me question my degree, you know? Because I'm like, it has everything that I've ever learned in all my psychology courses, learning about this experiment, learning about what people find, learning about all the stuff that has interested me since I was little. It's all a lie. That's That's how I felt, you know. I was
Yeah.
in class like, what are you telling me? And I was just shocked. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to know. Are you as shocked as me, basically?
Yeah, it's crazy because it does make you question everything.
My life.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So we heard about the replication crisis and open science and open data. So this leads me to my personal question with, is there a solution to the replication crisis? Because only about 36% of studies in psychology can be replicated.
36%.
36%.
Not even half of them.
Yes. When my professor asked, oh, like, how many studies do you think can be replicated? Because that was a question in the class. And I was surprised with the answer. I was like 70? Like 70%, you know? He said 36. Oh. I was like, 36? That's a low number. Like, would you do anything if it was a 36% chance of failure? Would you?
No.
I need at least 70. Yeah, so.
That means more than half of the studies in psychology
Are a fluke.
Yeah.
Or BS.
Can't be replicated.
Well, that
means they can't be trusted.
Exactly. That's my very strong point. You know, there are also a lot of factors as to reasons why some things can't be replicated. You know, slightly different methodologies, slightly different areas where the study took place, different people, different subjects, different, you know, differences here and there. But 36%, there's no way you can't get that close to a replication.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That shocked me.
Me too.
So there was a point made by Scott E. Maxwell. In psychology, is psychology suffering from a replication crisis? But what does failure to replicate theory even mean, right? And stated, well, they kind of answered my question. It stated that the essential problem is how to justify a conclusion that the results of the original study are not trustworthy. The conventional answer seems to be simple, right? Namely, that non-significant results in a replication study justify overturning the original study if the replication study was adequately powered. So basically that means if a replication study was done well and they followed exactly what they did, you know, as closely as possible, and they still couldn't replicate it, will the community, the scientific community in terms of psychology, regarding psychology, will they be able to reject that original? Should they reject that original?
Like if it can't be replicated, you can't get the same results. I mean, yeah, no.
I feel the same way. But then that leads you to the question, how many times does it have to be replicated to be proven valid? I would say if you can't replicate it at least 3 times, then you might have to question the original.
Yeah, and then go back and like have to like make some changes maybe.
And so we've talked about replication crisis. I think it's very interesting. I don't know if you think it's very interesting.
It's very interesting.
You think it's very interesting. But still, some people may ask, well, why do we even care about replicating? You know, nobody wants to publish something that has already been found, you know, something that someone else already did. No one wants to take credit for being the second best to find something, right? So, yeah, nobody wants to do that. So I was doing my research and I just found an article by Andrea Woodell. Now, she wrote, leaning into the replication crisis, why would you consider conducting replication research? Now, in that, she claims replication is vital to psychology because the studying of human behavior is messy. There are numerous variables that can result in the bias of researchers that can result if bias that can result in bias if researchers are not vigilant. Replication helps verify that the presence of a behavior at one point in time is not due to chance. So that basically means, what would you say that means? I have an idea, but what do you think that would mean?
That basically the results you got are for a reason, is because your study worked.
Right, exactly. So that's basically what she's saying. Like, human behavior is messy, of course, because how can we, psychology, I'll say, is messy. I love it, but it's messy, because how can you pick someone's brain without picking someone's brain, you know? So there are a lot of factors that contribute to, you know, not wrong replication, or what am I trying to say? Like, I guess not the best data. You know, sometimes a lot of psychology is based on questionnaires, based on self-report, you know. So a lot of the times maybe the subjects just didn't understand what was being asked. Maybe they had brain fog. They were not fully in the study. They were not paying attention. They had to do it just to get credit for a class, you know. Because a lot of the studies that we come to know are based off of rich white girls that are in college. So that's another thing that we can talk about. That could be a whole different podcast, because there needs to be more representation within research. But how do we feel? Like, how do we feel about all the studies that you may have known not representing, I guess, you? Because, you know, you're Latina, I'm Latina, we are studying, we're in psychology, we're becoming a part of the field. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it definitely is concerning. I feel like more representation would benefit not only us, but like everybody, because not everything, I feel like things are different for every group, I guess. And if you're just focused on one group of a population, it doesn't represent us as a whole, which leads to like limitations, which leads to unreliable research,
which leads to bad replications. So basically, replications are important to double check. You know, would you send a text without double checking?
Yeah, you always got to double check.
No, you double check, make sure what you're saying is correct, make sure what you're saying other people can understand. And I honestly believe, what are researchers hiding, or I question, what are researchers hiding if they don't want you to replicate? Because a lot of the times people do try to replicate, even though, you know, it's not seen as the best thing to do within the community. But when they try to replicate, they're told, oh, you have to reach out to the original author, ask them about their studies, ask them about their methods, ask them about data, ask them about this and that. They can flat out say, no, go ahead, replicate it, I'm not giving you any of the information. How does that work?
Yeah.
So replication is so important to find the truth for science, because science is supposed to be the truth, and it's not. Science is corrupted, I would say. 100%. 100%. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. Well, thank you so much for watching technically my second episode of the First Floor podcast, but with a new guest.
Very good.